My ex-girlfriend never came back after she took a break from our relationship, but now she shows up at my wedding to tell me it's unfair that I'm moving on when she's been waiting for me. Going back 4 years, I was dating a girl. Let's call her Candy. Things were generally going well between us, but there were some issues. Candy was very dominant about everything, and her attachment to her male best friend, let's call him Tom, was a constant source of tension. Despite my discomfort with how close they were, Candy always assured me there was nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, my concerns turned out to be valid. Candy ended up cheating on me, and this happened after we were already engaged. About a month after I proposed to Candy, things started going wrong. We grew distant and our relationship was full of problems. I began questioning whether proposing had been a mistake. Candy suggested we take a short break to figure things out. But instead of talking it through, she ghosted me. She stopped answering my calls and messages, which hurt a lot. The pain of being ghosted was bad, but it got worse when I found out she had cheated. Discovering the cheating was even worse, but it also helped me understand why everything fell apart. There was some comfort in that, at least. It took time to get over the hurt, but eventually I moved on. I put my energy into my career and started my own business. Things started looking up, and I felt like I was getting back on track and finding success again. That's when I met Leslie. We crossed paths through a few clients I was working with. From the start, there was a spark between us. We quickly discovered we had a lot in common, and our conversations flowed effortlessly. It felt like we'd known each other for years. Even though we'd just met, Leslie wasn't only smart and competent in her field. She also had a warm, fun personality. We started spending more time together, and every moment felt exciting and genuine. It was refreshing to connect with someone who seemed to understand me so well. Our relationship developed quickly, and what began as a professional connection soon turned into something much deeper and more meaningful. We eventually started dating, and it was fantastic. We went to dinners, watched movies together, and it all felt so natural. I had been pretty consumed by work before meeting her, but Leslie helped me find a much better work-life balance. Spending time with her made me realize how important it is to step back and enjoy life. Everything just felt right, and our time together was the perfect mix of fun and relaxation. After a year and a half of dating, I proposed to Leslie and she said yes. Everything seemed perfect except for one thing: her family. My family was totally laid back about the whole situation and genuinely happy for Leslie. Her family, on the other hand, was a different story. They had issues with our relationship from the beginning and made it clear they weren't exactly thrilled with me. Everything else in our life was happy except that one dark spot. Leslie's family was very traditional and had strong opinions. A whole plan for how Leslie should live her life. They didn't like that she worked and would have preferred she marry a good Christian guy and stay home. I wasn't Christian, but I could support Leslie staying home if that's what she wanted. The problem was she didn't want to, and that was fine with me. Leslie had been struggling with her family for years because they didn't support her choices. As far as I was concerned, their disapproval was obvious from the start. It felt like they disliked me even before meeting me. No matter what we did, their outdated beliefs and expectations were always going to be a problem. Leslie understood her family's traditional views well but found it hard to fully cut them off or stand up to them completely. She was very emotionally attached to them, and that attachment made it difficult for her to distance herself from their influence. Despite her dedication to her career and our relationship, she wanted to keep a connection with her family. Leslie tried to walk a thin line. She wanted to follow her own path and be with me but didn't want to completely sever ties with her family. That meant she often tried to appease them, even if it meant compromising things that were important to us. Her family wasn't the type to force her into decisions, but they were very vocal about their disapproval. They made their feelings known loud and clear, which put Leslie in a tough position. She constantly felt like she had to choose between doing what she wanted and dealing with their loud criticism. This constant balancing act created a lot of stress and tension in our relationship as Leslie tried to keep everyone, including herself, happy. When I first met Leslie's family, they were somewhat okay with me. They liked that I was successful and financially stable, and that my mom went to church on Sundays, which seemed to give me some points. But things quickly soured when they started voicing their opinions about our future. They constantly pressured me, saying I shouldn't let Leslie work after we got married and asking about our plans for kids. They also didn't like that I wasn't Christian in the way they understood it. For example, that I didn't go to church on Sundays. For Leslie, it was something she was used to, given how traditional her family was. She tried to brush off their comments and told me to do the same. But I couldn't just ignore it. I told them Leslie was talented and I wanted her to keep working if she chose to. I also said we had no plans for kids right then and would figure it out later. That was the truth. We planned to wait until we were married to decide when to have children. They were clearly unhappy with my views. They thought I was disrespecting their traditional values and started questioning my commitment to the relationship. They were very vocal, saying I was making a mistake and needed to think about whether I really cared about Leslie and our future. Even though Leslie tried to downplay their disapproval, the stress was starting to affect us both. As we had more family dinners, the issues with Leslie's family only intensified. They kept making backhanded compliments that were clearly meant to be critical. For example, "You know, not everyone gets the chance to marry someone who shares the same values. We hope you understand and respect our opinions," or, "It's great you're doing well, but you'll have to show more commitment to family traditions if this is going to work." They also said things like, "It must be hard for your mom to juggle work and taking care of the house. That's why she always seems so stressed." My mother, who did go to church but was very open-minded, started losing favor with them too. They often criticized her for not fitting their traditional Christian mold, making comments about how they believed a wife should stay home and take care of the family. The worst part about her family was how hypocritical they were. On one hand, they constantly criticized Leslie for working, acting like it was some kind of failure on my part that she had a job. On the other hand, they had no problem asking her for money all the time. They treated her like their personal bank account. For example, her mom would ask her to help pay for house repairs, or her dad would casually mention needing money for some emergency expense. It didn't stop there. Once her brother was in financial trouble because of his bad business decisions. And who did they turn to for help? Leslie. They made her feel it was her moral duty to support the family just because she was earning money, which in their minds wasn't right anyway. They acted like since she was working she owed it to them to keep them afloat, all while putting down her career. Now, I have no problem helping family in tough times, but the way they were using her was wrong. They expected her to pay for everything yet still had the nerve to say she shouldn't be working in the first place. I couldn't just sit back and watch them take advantage of her like that, so I decided to talk to her about it. We had a conversation where I explained how they were exploiting her. I told her it wasn't fair that she was constantly giving and getting nothing but criticism in return. After a lot of back and forth, I finally convinced her she needed to set some boundaries and take more control of her money. She reluctantly agreed to cut back on what she gave them. But as soon as she started doing that, her family wasn't happy. Her mom called her acting all hurt, saying, "How could you suddenly stop helping us?" Her dad thought she was using her money to help me, that I had some business crisis, and that was wrong because she shouldn't be working in the first place. They tried to guilt trip her at every opportunity, making it seem like she was abandoning them. It was tough, but she started standing her ground a bit more. Though her family definitely didn't like it when she began pushing back. These issues with her family led to even more drama. But despite everything, the wedding day arrived and we were happy. Then something bizarre happened. Out of nowhere, Candy showed up at the wedding. I hadn't heard from her in years, and suddenly there she was causing a scene. She started accusing me, saying things like, "How could you marry someone else after keeping me waiting for 2 years?" She acted like I had ghosted her and broken her heart, when in reality she was the one who cheated and disappeared. It was such a twisted, out-of-nowhere accusation. She was trying to play the victim and completely flip the script. People were watching, and she kept going on like I had abandoned her after some long, serious relationship. It didn't help that when I said she had done those things, people who didn't know my story were more likely to believe a crying woman than me. Leslie's family, who already had it in for me, jumped at the chance. They immediately sided with Candy, trying to make her look like the victim. They didn't miss a beat, telling Leslie things like, "See, we told you he's no good. You can't marry him now, not after this, he's a fraud." They acted like this was final proof I wasn't the right guy for her. They even told Leslie to walk away right then, like everything was over. It turned into a huge scene. People were staring, and it felt like it lasted forever, but I stayed calm and made sure the truth came out. I wasn't going to let her get away with it without people knowing the real story. Luckily, my friends and family backed me up because they knew the truth. It became obvious to everyone, except Leslie's family, that she was just there to cause drama. But Leslie stayed silent through it all. Her family, on the other hand, kept trying to stir things up, whispering in her ear, telling her to walk away from the wedding and not go through with it. I had no idea what Leslie was thinking. I went over to her, trying to figure out what was going through her mind. I asked if she was okay, if she still wanted to go through with it. She just looked at me for a second and said, "I never doubted you for a second." Hearing that was a huge relief. She admitted she was a bit shaken by all the drama, but trusted me and knew Candy was just trying to mess with us. So despite all the chaos and her family's attempts to split us up, the wedding actually happened. It wasn't without drama, but we got through it in the end. It was a beautiful ceremony, even if it came with way more baggage than we expected. After the wedding, things were okay for a few months, but then the issues with her family started creeping back in. It was like they had a problem with everything I did. Worst of all, Leslie wouldn't speak up for me. She would just downplay it, telling me to ignore them and keep the peace. Before the wedding, she used to defend me, but after the wedding it was like she didn't need to anymore. I felt like I was on my own dealing with their constant criticism. This back and forth went on for months, and the more it happened, the more frustrated I got. It felt like I was losing ground bit by bit. The whole situation started taking a serious toll on our relationship. I couldn't handle how Leslie let her family criticize me at every turn and never said a word in my defense. Then there was the money issue. Leslie was constantly handing over a big chunk of her paycheck to her family. She had gone back to giving them a lot of money, only now she was doing it behind my back. What made it worse was how Leslie reacted when it came to me spending money. If I wanted to buy something just for fun, like a new phone or even some tool for my workshop, she would get upset. I remember once I wanted to buy a new TV, nothing crazy, just something a bit bigger and nicer, and she got mad, saying we didn't need it, it was a waste of money. I'm not saying she was wrong and that a TV is a necessary expense. But at the same time, she was giving tons of money to her parents for no reason. Like when her brother wanted to buy a ridiculously expensive sound system for his house, she was totally fine with it and even contributed because it was a family gift. I didn't know at the time that she had contributed, but she had. Over time, things kept getting worse between Leslie and me. It felt like the more her family interfered, the more distant we became. And then came the day that really broke the camel's back. Her family was at our house, and as usual, the passive-aggressive comments started. Her mom began making little digs about our marriage. Then her dad chimed in with, "It's a shame you're both so busy with work. That's not good for a marriage. You need more time together to start a family." And Leslie just sat there nodding like everything was fine. But the real blow came when her mom said in a mocking tone, "Oh, and be careful, you never know if that ex of yours, Candy, was actually wrong. Maybe someone's really good at manipulating people." To her it was a joke, but I was furious. They were literally trying to stir up old drama, acting like I might have been wrong or hiding something. I was so fed up. I just sat there in disbelief, looking at Leslie, waiting for her to say something, anything. But as usual, she stayed silent. That was the last straw for me. I couldn't take their constant disrespect anymore. I couldn't handle how Leslie refused to defend me or us. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and completely done. So in that moment I snapped. I couldn't hold it in anymore, and I let her family have a few home truths. I said, "You know what? I'm tired of your constant criticism and disrespect. Every time you come here it's like you're just looking for reasons to put me down. You know what's good for a healthy marriage? Nosy, backward in-laws minding their own damn business and stopping bothering me in my own house. Maybe you're not as good Christians as you claim. Because if you have time to come waste mine with your nonsense, you're clearly not going to church enough. What would God think if he saw you right now? He'd be very disappointed with your lack of Christian commitment." I looked at her mom and added, "And seriously, enough with these Candy comments. You know she cheated and left me. Defending her just makes you look like bad people. Come on, my mother goes to church constantly and she knows right from wrong. You're just dragging up old issues to make me look bad, which is not only childish but pretty stupid of you." Then I turned to her dad and said, "You're always saying we should spend more time together. Maybe if your family wasn't here every single day we'd have time to have some fun, and who knows, maybe we'd have had a kid by accident. I don't know how you got your kids, maybe you stole them, but at least I understand kids happen when there's a little privacy from the in-laws. That's when they said I didn't deserve their daughter, that I was foul-mouthed and jealous. She had a good relationship with her parents and helped them so much financially. That's when I found out she'd been giving them a lot more money, because all the recent help came out. It felt good to finally say all that, but it didn't fix anything." Her family was stunned, and Leslie looked angrier than ever. Instead of backing me up for trying to defend not just myself but her too, Leslie lost it. She couldn't believe I'd spoken to her family that way. She said they were her parents after all, and as her husband I should treat them with respect. We ended up having a huge fight because they clearly weren't treating me with respect. Nor was she. And the worst part was that my own wife wasn't treating me with respect either. She demanded an apology, but I refused because even though I'd used some insults, it wasn't like they didn't deserve it. I told her it felt suffocating to be in a marriage where her family had more influence than her own husband. In the heat of the moment she blurted out, "If you can't handle my family then maybe we should end this. They're my first priority." I think we both realized in that moment that our marriage was really over. A few days later we tried to talk things through, but by then her family had completely brainwashed her. Suddenly I was the bad guy who didn't want his wife supporting her family. She was convinced I was being unreasonable and that giving them 70% of her personal money was fine. I was already ready to move forward with divorce. I'd put up with way too much drama that wasn't even mine to begin with. There was no point trying to fix something when the person who needed to fix it didn't see a problem in the first place. Her family's issues had made my life hell, and hers too, but she couldn't see it. So we went ahead with the divorce. After 2 months of legal proceedings it was finalized and we were officially done. The one good thing I did, because obviously marrying her was a huge mistake, was insist on a prenup before the wedding. I did it because I had a small business I didn't want to lose, but also because something in my gut told me I'd need it soon. Fast forward 6 months to today when I got an unexpected email from, of all people, Candy. She reached out to apologize for everything that happened. She said she'd had a guilt realization and wanted to come clean. Here's the thing. she revealed that Leslie's family had actually paid her to stage that whole scene at the wedding. I'd love to say I can't believe it, but I can, and it was obvious they were behind it. Turns out all that chaos and drama was planned and orchestrated by her family, and Kandi was just a pawn in their game, or at least that's what she claims. It left me so angry and upset all over again. Just when I'd found peace, more shit hits the fan. I'm still processing it, trying to figure out what to do next. I'm not sure. Reddit, should I confront Leslie and her family about this or just let it go? I'm exhausted from all the drama, but it doesn't feel like I'll get closure unless I address it directly. On one hand, I don't want to drag myself back into a mess I've already tried to move on from. Edit. Yes, it was weird to me too that they were against Leslie's career yet demanded money from her. I've thought about it and I think it was a control thing, like, fine, we'll let you work but you give us almost all the money so you can't actually use it because it's impure. That makes the most sense since they wanted to control every aspect of her life. Update 1. I read all your comments and advice and I've made a decision. I'm going to confront Leslie and her family about the whole situation. I was leaning toward not doing it since confrontation wouldn't bring anything new, just an argument with people I never planned to see again. But someone gave me the idea to record the conversation for educational purposes later, and I liked that plan enough to subject myself to an hour with the Manson family. On a different note, I wanted to let you know things with Kandi are much clearer. I've come to forgive her because I see she was a victim in this too and didn't mean to hurt me. We've even decided to give our relationship another chance now that we're both single. Just kidding. That's for the people in the comments who said Kandi was a victim of Leslie's family's manipulation. This woman cheated on me. There's nothing victim-like about agreeing to crash my wedding. Unless someone has proof she had a sniper on her, there's no defending it. Then there's the rest of this community that has common sense, including those who criticized me for marrying Leslie despite her parents. I agree now it was a huge mistake. But you learn from mistakes and I have a life to live. I also told my parents what I found out. They're as pissed as I am. They feel Leslie's family went way too far and are angry about the manipulation and deceit. They hate Kandi a little more than yesterday too. I'm preparing to reach out to Leslie and her family soon to infiltrate enemy lines. I hope this finally gives me the closure I need and maybe clears up some lingering confusion and anger. Update 2. So I reached out to Leslie like I said I would. As expected, she was a bit standoffish at first, acting like she didn't want to hear from me. But I wasn't there to argue or fight. I just told her straight that I wanted nothing from her. I just needed to sit down with her and her parents to talk. She had her doubts but eventually agreed and set it up. When we were all sitting together, and I was recording, I spoke directly to her about how her family, the same people she constantly chose over me, had been sabotaging our relationship even before the wedding. I explained that they paid my ex to stage that whole scene at our wedding hoping she would call it off. And even after the wedding they kept causing problems trying to ruin everything between us. I made sure to point out that her family is the real reason our marriage failed, not me. I told her she'd been blind to it, always choosing them over her own happiness, and that she's a fool for not seeing how toxic they really are. So after I laid it all out, to my surprise she confronted them. I'll spare you the details of the argument because they're just narcissists defending themselves and saying they did it because it was necessary. At least they admitted it, though always looking for a way to justify it. Now she's coming back to me saying she realizes how manipulated she's been the whole time. And get this, she thinks we should give our relationship another chance. Like she's acting as if now that she sees the truth we can just pick up where we left off and everything will be fine. I obviously refused. I told her I'm not going through that again. It's not like this is the first time she's decided to cut them off in quotes. She didn't need this information to do it, just seeing how they treated me should have been enough to take my side. I'm not about to get back into that toxic cycle no matter how much she claims she's changed now. It's too late for that. On the other hand, I'm finalizing the details of the post I'm going to make with the audio of my former in-laws. I know this will splash back on my ex-wife too, but I'm tired of these people never facing any consequences for what they do. And as you probably know by now, I don't think my ex is all that innocent either. Finally, I want to clear something up that I held back in my last post. The reason Candy did what she did now. She actually wanted us to get back together, and part of the wedding speech about waiting for me was real. She thought now that I was single we could really try. I never replied to the email, not even to say thanks. Update 3. Her family did reach out after all, telling me to stop bothering them now that I'm out of their lives forever. They had the nerve to say I was the one manipulating Leslie, as if I were the source of all the drama. At least we know the reaction to my post about what they did. They also threatened to get a lawyer if I didn't take it down. They can go ahead, I'm happy to pay just for having done it. So far they haven't. I didn't even waste time replying. I blocked their numbers, screenshot the messages, and forwarded them to Leslie. I told her I was done with her and her family. They've caused me enough stress and chaos. The only reason I contacted her in the first place was to make my post. Now I want nothing to do with any of them. Leslie said she understood, so I told her I'd block her too. There's no way I'm getting dragged back into that mess again. She agreed. And that was it. No back and forth, no lingering questions. That chapter of my life is officially closed. Another positive is that it splashed back on Candy too. It wasn't my intention, but I'm not complaining. Also, someone asked who this ex was and I gave her real name. It felt right that she doesn't get off scot-free after what she did. She's guilty too. I think that answers whether she really wanted to try again. And sure, you'll think what a winner OP is that all his exes want him back. The only problem is none of the exes are worth it, and there's no decent woman even looking my way yet. I'm not ready for that anyway, but it's not exactly good luck. Update 4. I've been asked for an update on my exes because people want to know how their lives turned out after everything in my story. I probably shouldn't say, but everything I know is secondhand, so it's limited. I'll start with Candy, the original one in the context of my story, the first ex. She had a couple of relationships, but sooner or later they found the audio and my mention of her, and those relationships ended pretty quickly after that. Even today that post is still up and nobody has sued me. It's not like it's trending, but anyone who Googles Candy's real name plus something about a wedding will end up there. I've been told she started an OnlyFans. I don't have an account there and haven't looked her up, so we have to take that person's word for it. I've also seen recent photos of her and she doesn't look good at all. But that's more subjective than objective. Maybe to others she looks gorgeous and it's just me with the cheater filter on. It's like cheating makes people ugly. Then there's Leslie, the second ex in my story. I'm almost certain she moved back in with her parents. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I'm convinced it's true from some details that would reveal too much about me and her in real life. On the other hand, she quit her job, that's why she moved back, and is waiting for her parents to find her a boyfriend. The last part is a guess because there's no reason for her to quit her job other than to become a housewife and have a man propose. We're in the 21st century and I don't think that can happen, but it's not my problem. My problem is that she was lying when she said she saw how toxic her parents were. I'm glad I didn't fall for her trap. On the other hand, her parents and other family members depend financially on Leslie, which makes me think they must be struggling now. Despite their religiosity, they weren't at church all day, and the rest of the time they spent on pointless tasks like trying to convince their daughter I wasn't good for her. So I don't see how they have money now when they barely worked. I can't help thinking that if they hadn't been so controlling with their daughter, she would have had a great career, which is now wasted, and would have helped them financially. But they'd rather be right than have a better financial future. As for me, though nobody asked, I'm in a relationship. This time it took me almost 2 years since the last one to start it. I'm comfortable and happy, but I'm not rushing anything. Her parents seem like decent people. Though at this point I'd settle for them just being human, it would be a huge improvement over the previous ones.